Guys, in this video I want to talk about something very, very important. And that is that if you feel stuck, my best advice for you is to start traveling. And this might sound counterproductive or anything. I don't know. I don't judge. But the thing is, it is the biggest game changer ever. Because when I started traveling, I realized something, and I'm not talking about booking a vacation somewhere, right? I'm not talking about doing a 1 or 2 week holiday, booking a hotel in advance, just going to that hotel, staying in that hotel, eating in the hotel, maybe at a restaurant next to your hotel, and then going to the beach all day. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actually traveling, not doing a vacation, but traveling. For example, take me, right? I made the decision to go to the Canary Islands. So my first plan was to go to Fuerteventura. That didn't happen, but that didn't hold me back. I then decided to go to Tenerife, right? So I just booked my flight to Tenerife, booked a one-way flight, didn't have a hotel before I even was in Tenerife, right? I didn't book a hotel in advance, didn't do nothing, right? Because my goal was to just go there, experience it, see for myself, kind of scout the location, see what it's all about, and then make the decision how to move forward. Right, the whole reason I'm recording this video is actually the following. When I came back from my drop-off, I just had to drop off a product because it has to be fixed on warranty. Anyways, long story short, I drove home, and when I drove home, I realized something, and that is that you kind of carry the energy that you acquired during your travels of a foreign place within you. So, for example, or in easy words, I still feel the vibes and the enlightenment and the broadening of my horizon right now, even though I'm back where I came from. And that is something that you cannot underestimate. That is so powerful because I kind of see the world that surrounds me over here that I have seen many times before with different eyes. Right now, after I came back from these long travels, I was a 3 weeks unplanned trip in the Canary Islands. I actually traveled from Tenerife to then Gran Canaria, from Gran Canaria back to Germany, and before that I was traveling in the United States for a whole month. So after all that, after these 2 months have passed, I kind of see the world with different eyes here, right? Because I have this broader and wider perspective and point of view on things. And it wasn't like that I was close-minded before leaving, right? This is not the case. It's just, it's hard to explain, but you saw so many different things during your travels that are so different to the location where you come from, that you now have something to compare what you see where you come from to what you saw in a foreign country, right? And this is extremely powerful because now you kind of don't feel stuck anymore. Like, I didn't really feel stuck when leaving, but I definitely felt stuck earlier in my life. And I think this is insanely powerful because I've done so many things to not feel stuck anymore, that a lot of people that might not be able to do that, or might have not been able to do that, or have less freedom than me, let's just put it this way. I can only imagine how trapped a lot of these people have to feel like. And this is kind of my advice to you and my reminder to you that if you feel trapped, if you feel stuck, my best advice for you is to start traveling, because it's kind of like you get to live your life again in a way. I started realizing when I was traveling that I all of a sudden felt way younger. That is so crazy, right? Because you cannot change time, you cannot manipulate time, but you can finesse it in a sense that you can trick your mind and your body into feeling and believing like time is passing at a slower pace, and also maybe tricking your mind into you feeling younger by changing your locations, and because you get to experience all these new things that you haven't seen before, you feel like a younger version of yourself because you get to explore all the things that you have already explored at the location where you come from. And this is insanely powerful. This is maybe the heaviest level of anything I have experienced as of now. There's no way that I would have thought a few years ago that you could actually feel 22 again despite being in your 30s. Like this was just not something I was thinking about, and also not something I believe in. This was just not on my mind, right? The fact that you could feel younger in a different location was just not on my mind. I was not thinking about it. I've never heard another person talk about it, and therefore never considered it to be a possibility. And because of that, I never thought about it, and because of that, I never realized that this could be your reality as well. And now, full circle back to me traveling all these locations, I feel way younger than ever before, and I also feel like time is moving slower, and that is a very good thing, because recently, I don't know, time was just flying, and I thought like, man, every single day is kind of the same. I do my business stuff, I do sport, I eat my healthy things, I meet some people, I go to bed, and then do the same thing again, and same thing again, and same thing again. And if you are in such a routine, and such a routine is very powerful, but if you are stuck in such a routine, time starts to fly like nobody's business. It just starts to go so fast, and you get up out of bed, start your day, it is Monday, you get to bed, all of a sudden it's Friday again. And what I realized during these travels is that this is not the case in a different location. Whether I was traveling the United States or the Canary Islands, I never had this feeling in any of the places I've been to. And I've been to a lot of places in both countries or islands, right? I've actually stayed during these 3 weeks in the Canary Islands. I stayed in 6 hotels / Airbnbs. I stayed in 2 campsites, and then I also camped in the car 3 days. So I got to see a lot of places. I basically saw the whole coastline of Gran Canaria and the whole coastline of Tenerife. I drove the whole coastline in 2 rental cars, right? So I got to see a lot of stuff, and this is just not something that would happen if you book a vacation trip for 2 weeks in a hotel, right? This is definitely not gonna happen, because how could it? It would not happen. And because of that, and because I was experiencing all these things while also working, right? While meeting these people, while changing locations almost every day to get around these islands in 3 weeks. I had all these new impressions, and it kind of made me feel like a child again. And it was the best feeling ever. The best feeling ever. And not only that, it also led to me being able to let loose of my routines, but in a good way. Not in a neglective way, but in a way where I could change them to different routines for the meantime. And because I did that, I started realizing that some of these routines I do, they might not benefit me anymore. They benefited me in the past, and that's why I stuck with them. But maybe now it's time to switch it up, right? And this is something that I would have never realized, because I'm so dialed into these routines that it is not even on my mind to change them up. I don't even think about that, because it is like driving a bicycle. If you have done it a million times, you don't think about how to drive a bicycle. You just happen to drive a bicycle, right? So that's so powerful and so interesting. So my biggest advice to you is, if you feel stuck, or if you have the feeling that every day is the same, that you cannot get out of there, that you just everything just happens and you have zero control over it, like a flywheel, right? If you have that feeling, or if you feel stuck, or if you just want to explore something and you are scared of traveling, man, you just gotta jump into it. You just gotta do it, man. Just do it. Just trust me on that one. Maybe there will be bad times during your travels, and I had bad times. Actually, some of my luggage was stolen during my trip, and I had never had something like that happen to me. But there were so many more good things that happened that I'm kind of okay with it. The positive outweighs the negative by far. So overall, I'm just so grateful for the trip with all its ups and downs. Like, I wouldn't change a single thing. And this is my takeaway here, and also my advice to you. Like, not every day will be smooth sailing if you do a trip like this that is not planned at all, where you just kind of wing it and live from day to day. Like, not everything will be smooth sailing. There will be issues. Your car could break down, right? Your hotel could be utter trash. I was in this one hotel and it was the worst hotel I've ever been to. And I've been to quite a few hotels. That was ridiculous. There was a 3-star hotel and we had a storm, and then it started raining into that hotel and the whole floor was underwater and stuff like that. But this is not even the worst thing, because a leaking roof can always happen. This is not the problem. The problem was the room itself. There were animals in the bed, no joke. It was crazy. I couldn't even sleep in that bed. When I was in that bed, I contemplated just leaving at 2 a.m. because I was still dressed in my clothes. I couldn't dress in my sleeping clothes to sleep in this bed. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So I had a jacket on, I had a jeans on and everything, and I didn't even remove the blanket. I just covered the whole thing, the whole bed where the bugs were in it, with the blanket, and then just slept in my clothes on that blanket. And I was waking up, and I woke up 4 times that night, and I was I was just so drained. This was the first day of me arriving there after a 6-hour flight and all of the other stuff. So I was just so drained. I even contemplated just going back to my car and just sleeping in the car in the seat without camping equipment on a parking lot in the middle of the city, because it was so bad, right? This hotel was not it, man. And then when you use the bathroom was so small you couldn't even really use it, because you could only turn 360. You could not make a step into any direction, because there was either the sink, the toilet, or the shower. No joke, it was insane. And then the shower was the smallest shower I've ever seen. You almost couldn't even use that shower. That shower was like the wackiest setup I've ever seen. It was like a bathtub, but 1/3 of a bathtub, and it still had the 45-degree slant. So your footprint where you could actually stand on, because you cannot stand on a wet 45-degree slant in a bathtub, right? Because you slip and break your neck. So you kind of just have to stand on the flat surface in the bathtub. And the flat surface, I kid you not, was the size of my feet in a square. So this was like the weirdest hotel room in a 3-star hotel I've ever seen, bar none. And this was my first experience. And at this point, I really contemplated after that, and having 3 people curse at me on the first day of me arriving there, all of that led to me heavily contemplating after my insanely nice US trip if that is the right location for me to be in. But I decided we need to just stick in there, man. From here we can only go up. And so we did. It was amazing, and the trip turned out to be absolute awesome, and it got better and better and better. And then my stuff got stolen, it got worse again, but then it got better and better and better. So overall, the thing just kept getting better, despite these hiccups and hookups that happened in between, right? Anyways, my message is, You cannot let yourself discourage from such things. You could also lose the job that you had for the past 10 years tomorrow in your hometown, right? Bad things can happen no matter where you are. But the upside of traveling and having all these new experiences will always outweigh the negative, at least for me as of now. I mean, you could land in a very bad place. That could be also a thing. But then again, this is very, very unlikely, and you should never let yourself scare about it, because you could also end in a very bad place in your hometown. You could cross the street and there comes a motorbike with 280 kilometers an hour and just runs you over and you're dead. That could happen too, right? Very unlikely though. Very unlikely that you will have a long negative experience during your travels. And it's very, very, very more likely that you will have the best time ever and then some negative hiccups, but the best times ever will outperform the negative and out-counter the negative by far. So this is like a risk and reward type situation. And the best situations in life are kind of always higher risk. That's why most people don't have that, right? Most people are not ready to take bigger risks. And because they are not ready to take bigger risks, they will always stay in their lane and they will always be kind of stuck. But if you are ready to take the leap, right, to take the bigger risk, there's something that awaits you on the other side that most people cannot even comprehend. And that's crazy, right? They could comprehend when they were childs, because back then they took risks. But then they grew up, they became comfortable, they had a job, they have the same job for 15 years, they get so comfortable with it, and then they kind of lose that risk-taking ability without even being aware of it, right? And I came to the realization that whatever happens in life, you can never let it happen that you lose this risk-taking ability. Because the best things I've done in life, the coolest experiences I have had in life, the best business ideas or business ventures I had in life were always risky opportunities. Always. Some more than other, but all of them were way riskier than the average. And this is my advice to you. I mean, if you think about it realistically, what is the worst thing that could happen? If you do this for 2 weeks, right? If you travel for 2 weeks without a plan, well, the worst thing that could happen is that you kind of lose 2 weeks and have some very bad negative experiences. But then again, out of these very bad negative experiences, and this is the worst case that could even happen, out of these negative experiences, you learn so much that you will see the world with other eyes once you went past these 2 weeks. And what you gain is the confidence, the ability, and the trust in yourself to be able to move yourself out of such situations and also just stick through such situations. And if you get to this point, your life could change in a day or two. Like everything could change from that moment on. Imagine feeling stuck in life, deciding, okay, we are going to do this traveling thing. We're going to do this for 2 weeks. We're just going to wing it, living day by day, just exploring things. Don't listen to guides. Don't, just doing your own thing, meeting people there, talking to people, just see what happens. And even if bad things happen, right, you will learn and gain so much out of this experience that you might not even feel stuck anymore once you come back home. And also, maybe you came to the realization that there is so much more in this world that you can see, that you can do, besides being stuck in that job. And that is a perspective that you might have not had before. And this is my advice to you. So if you ever feel stuck for whatever reason, the reasons we talked about in this video, or if you kind of have such big fear of traveling, of meeting different people, social anxiety, whatever, man, you just gotta do it. Just try it once. The first step is the hardest. Once you have the first step in, you can do the second one. Once you have the second one, you can do the fifth one. Once you have the fifth one, you know you can do this forever, right? And there will be hiccups, but you just keep moving, man. You just move through them, and then you just do baby steps, one after another, and continue this, right? And sooner than later, you will come to the realization that it was way less of an issue way easier than you perceived it to be, because you had such a big mental barrier that you had to overcome, that your mental barrier kind of created these worst expectations in your mind without them even happening. Sorry guys, but for some kind of reason my audio was cut off here, but here is my edit. So if you start traveling, the following happens. You kind of manage to elevate your mind in a way that you gained awareness of what is happening around you in this world in the meantime. For example, I'm here right now driving this car 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon. But then, in the meantime, in the US, somebody's sleeping in his bed and getting his 9 hours in, right? So the thing is, things happen while you are doing things, but everyone is just living in their own kind of perspective and mind, so it is very easy to forget that fact. But this is a big fact. So with that being said, you really cannot ever get trapped into a situation, because you just have to think about it. There's so much more around you happening that you might not even be aware of, because you cannot see it, because your senses cannot realize it, because you cannot see it, you cannot hear it, you cannot feel it, because it is happening at the other side of the world, right? But it's still happening. Every single second that you are alive in this moment in time, things are happening on the other side of this world. So you cannot really ever be trapped, because all you have to do is just change your location and everything changes accordingly. And this is how I'm going to end this tape.